the time of the Buddha, that's how people showed respect. So generally, it is our custom to prostrate 3 times as soon as we come in the gompa. This is a gompa. So that's why I do that at the beginning. Okay, so we have some new people here, right? Am I correct? You're not new.
A little.
Okay, so this class, my name is Tendron. 10, like the number 10, Drun, D-R-O-N. It's a Tibetan word. So, establishing a daily practice is the 8th course in a series of 13. And we're doing it about level at, we're actually doing it as number like 11. So, if you have no clue what's going on, I apologize for that, but that's just where you've landed. So, Discovering Buddhism is a series, a 2-year course to help people who are interested in Tibetan Buddhism to actually learn the teachings of the Buddha from this perspective. So that's where we are. So establishing daily practice, what does that imply?
Do you want to answer?
Yes, I do.
It would imply that you are developing a habit of positive, virtuous activities.
Well, first, in a very basic way, it's implying that one should have a daily practice. One should establish a daily practice. So that's what we're going to look at with the pieces, what are the pieces of that and what do they mean? So, is Anthony still working on his test?
Shouldn't be, should be done. He told me he was finished, on Monday. It was the 15th, Monday, wait.
He's
Monday.
in there.
Today. He's
He's
taking
in
it
there.
now.
Oh, his test. I see, oh, sorry.
So,
I thought you said taxes, I'm sorry.
and where is your mind? Okay. So, when we do any activity, see, I always give pop quizzes. So the beginning. So those of you who've never been here, don't know anything, don't worry. Nothing's expected out of you. So, but those few in here that might have an answer, the pressure's on them. So when we start an activity, what is good to do? Oh, y'all are sad.
Motivation.
At first you try to remember, why the hell did I show up? We want a motivation. We want to remember, why did we choose to spend our valuable time this way? And then we want to set an intention based on that reason to use our time well. And so this is something that just by being mindful of these 2 things, it can radically change how you experience your day. If you're more conscious of why you're doing something and then make an intention to follow through on that. So it's really considered, I call them bookends, and I'm sure I learned that from someone else, I'm not clever, but it's just, that you can look at it as bookends for the day. That the very beginning of the day, you start with a motivation and set an intention for your day. And then at the end of the day, you look back on your day and think about how did it go. And you rejoice over the good stuff and try to do, make promise to do better on the stuff you didn't do so well. you know, and you dedicate all your good stuff to be of benefit to all beings. So those are the two bookends. So you can use it in that way, at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, but you can also use it throughout your day, so that you can set, you know, you can, as you're going to work, you can think about, why am I doing this? You know, so that perhaps we could walk into work with a more open kind of mind about showing up. Because even if we don't like our job, there's usually a reason why we're doing it. You know, we like to eat. We like to be able to spend money. You know, things like that. We like to be able to pay our bills. So we want to remember those things. So even if there's nothing glamorous about our jobs, or particularly exciting about our jobs, or particularly motivating about our jobs, we do like to eat. So, you know, it's good to remember that that's why we're showing up. And then if we can add to that something more to give the day more meaning, then that's even better, you know. So, but we can't do that if we don't think about it. Because we tend to just plod along through our days. And then at the end of the week, it's like, oh, another week's gone by. And then, oh, another week's gone by. Oh, and then another year's gone by. And then, you know, and so we don't get anywhere. I mean, we still do a lot of stuff, but it's not directed. It's just going, you know, it's just getting through the day, and then through another day, and then through another day. And that might not be very satisfying. So this is one way to help get a handle on how you fill your day, because it helps you be able to choose to not do something, you know, because you realize, oh, this isn't getting me where I want to go. So a daily practice is about that. A daily practice, the whole point of having a daily practice is to give you some control over where your mind's going. Mind, heart, same word. You know, so it's this, it's really to our benefit to incorporate in our lives a daily period of time that takes care of our mind. Just like we go to the gym, you know, for our body. Just like we eat for our body. Just like we, you know, if we look at our day, we can probably count, you know, 95% of what we do is for our body. And Buddhism just encourages us to consider that our mind might be more important. You know, obviously we need our bodies, but if our minds aren't in a good place, or under our control, then it's, so what that our body's fine. Because we all know that regardless of how our body feels, if our mind is in a lousy place, we're not going to enjoy the healthy body. It just isn't going to matter. Whereas if we have a good mind, even when the body's in a lousy place, it's not such a big deal. You know? So, I mean, that's just, you know, one of the reasons why work, you know, taking care of your mind is more important, because it determines how you experience your life in a good way, you know, or a negative way. So having a motivation, you know, really thinking about what is meaningful to you and what's meaningful, what you'd like to get out of your life or your day or the next hour, you know, is up to us. You know, we can only, us individually can figure that out for ourselves. And then how we go about fulfilling that motivation is also up to us. And we just want, you know, the teachings are about helping us make sure that the tools that we're using to fulfill our goals, they work or not. You know, because a lot of things that we do don't actually work. You know, we spend a lot of time trying to be happy or trying to, you know, achieve this or that, but at the end of the year, we might still have a sense of dissatisfaction. And that means our techniques aren't working. So the next thing to look at in terms of a daily practice is really structured in their list. Anybody surprised by that? So, and they're all about the mind. So I will give you an example of a list. So while I'm busy with tinkering with the electronics, you can try to remember the reason you came and set an intention or generate an intention to use your time well. Look at that, it worked. So before, I find this all hilarious, our list. So before you start a daily practice, there's actually a practice. And that practice are preparatory practices or preliminaries to your daily practice. Because when you think about Buddhism, what do you think about being a daily practice?
Meditation.
Meditation. And this is what you're supposed to do first. So, we can make it elaborate and we can also simplify it. This is just the basic structure. So cleaning the room and arranging the altar. Making offerings that are free from wrong livelihoods. Then sitting in the appropriate posture. And going for refuge and trying to generate the mind of bodhicitta. Invoking the merit field will describe what all these things are. And offering the 7-limb prayer and a mandala offering. And making request. This is how we prepare our mind to sit in meditation. So there's a reason for these steps. So cleaning the room and arranging the altar. Cleaning the room, obviously when you first set up an altar, it's nice to do it in a clean room. If you're going to set up an altar, that's an appropriate thing to do, is clean the room. The reason why you clean the room every day is sort of the ritual of it. To kind of, okay, I'm getting ready to meditate. And these are the things I do, one of which is to clean the room. Why will we clean a room? When do you usually clean your house? Definitely, without question, when you clean your house.
It's dirty.
Oh, that's much better than me.
When someone's coming over.
When someone's coming over.
Yeah, of course.
It's like when there's guests. So the idea is that who we're inviting are enlightened beings. So you want to clean the room because you're inviting some very important people over. Special people that really matter to you. So you clean the room and arrange the altar. What's arranged on a Buddhist altar are representations of the 3 jewels. The 3 jewels being the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. That's not true. Okay, wrong, scratch that. That's who we prostrate to. Okay, so when we set up the altar, we need representations of enlightened body, speech, and mind. So enlightened speech, how can we represent that? A book?
Yeah.
Any old book?
No, but a Dharma book.
A Dharma book, preferably words of the Buddha. A really good one is the Heart Sutra, because it's short. It's easy to find. But it also is considered, sums up all the teachings of the Buddha. So yes, so enlightened speech is represented by text. Enlightened body is represented by what?
Physical representations of Buddha
Right.
statue.
So Shakyamuni Buddha. In particular, Shakyamuni Buddha. You know, on any altar in a Buddhist tradition, especially a Tibetan Buddhist tradition, Shakyamuni Buddha should be your central figure. And then enlightened mind. Now, enlightened mind is represented by a stupa. That's a stupa behind Anthony over there. This is just something that the Buddha said at the time of the Buddha, was that stupas would represent enlightened mind. So when, you know, and it was a tradition at the time to fill stupas with holy objects and all, you know, text, images, wealth, all sorts of things, and relics of enlightened beings, which are, you know, like what the remains from a cremation teacher. And so at Bodh Gaya, do you know, have you done pilgrimage?
I haven't been to Bodh Gaya.
Anybody gone to Bodh Gaya? Oh, we need to make pilgrimage. We can all do that together. I've never been either. So, but that's the site of the Buddha's enlightenment. And there's a stupa there. And I believe it has relics of the Buddha in it.
They say.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say. Okay. The purpose of putting these representations of enlightened body, speech, and mind is for us to take a moment to recollect the qualities of enlightened body, speech, and mind. So the enlightened qualities of a body are their activities, the way they benefit others. Enlightened speech are the teachings. I mean, that's the path we're trying to incorporate into our lives. And then enlightened body is just the form in which we can receive teachings. You know, it's you know, not, it doesn't come written in the sky, or, you know, it's through teachers. And an enlightened being's body is represented as perfect. And that's for our mind. But these are just things to help us try to remember why we're doing any practice at all. You know, so why would we stand to meditate? Well, because there's some teachings that we have some confidence in, or we're trying to find out if they work, you know, advise this practice. And so once you've developed some confidence in the practices that are advised, then, you know, you might want to take on the responsibility of showing respect for those teachings. And, you know, so that's the idea behind it. It's not expected that a brand new beginner would do all this. It'd be kind of weird, you know, because why would you do it? So, but over time, when you start to have an appreciation for the teachings, and if you put them into practice, and if they've changed your life, then this is a way to help be a daily reminder of what's working for you and what you're aiming for. And then you make offerings, because after all, you're inviting them to your home. So the offerings sort of represent, like we have water bowl offerings. And in Tibet, in the Tibetan tradition, this is, you don't see water bowl offerings in all the different Buddhist traditions and altars. And the Tibetans do it because Lama Atisha, when he came to Tibet, was very aware of how wonderful the water was in Tibet compared to India, and said, oh, y'all can order, offer water because it's, it's necessary for life, and it's clean here, it won't disturb your tummy and all these kind of things. And there are 8 good qualities of water, and at the time Tibet had those qualities in their water. So you can offer water. You can also use the water to represent the traditional offerings that were given at the time of the Buddha, which were things like water to drink, water to bathe your feet because you're walking on dusty roads, water for, flowers, incense, just pleasant fragrance, light, music, food.
Oil or perfume.
Yeah, and it's like a massage oil. So after you wash your feet, maybe someone give you a foot massage with lovely fragrant oils. So that's what so sometimes you will see bowls that actually have those substances in them, flowers, and they'll have a bowl of rice with incense sticks, things like that. And it's important that these are obtained without wrong livelihood. So wrong livelihood, what's an easy example of wrong livelihood for obtaining offerings? Stealing. You don't go by your neighbor's yard and pick all their flowers and put them on your altar. Very, very poor look. It's not done. So, other wrong livelihoods are things like selling arms. Selling weapons, even at the time of the Buddha, was considered wrong livelihood. Butchers, killing living beings. So you want to so one of the other reasons why Lama Atisha recommended water bowl offerings was because water is something generally that is either free or inexpensive. At the time of the Buddha, of course, it was, free in the sense of if there was a river there, you could drink their water. Not free if the river went through somebody's land, but it was just something easy to give so that people could, practice generosity without regret. Because it's very important when you're practicing generosity to not turn around and regret it later. So you have to pace yourself with what you can give. You stretch yourself a little. So in the beginning, the way we stretch ourselves is just doing it. It's like, oh, are you kidding me? I have to get up and offer water, offer anything. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. So then you sit on your meditation seat. Yes.
I've heard before that there is an auspicious time to meditate in the morning from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Does Buddhist also
It's
follow
before
that?
dawn. But
Before
that's
dawn.
really a specialized kind of reason. Because they say enlightened dakinis are active before dawn. So they like that. They like the offerings made. The prayers and everything is an offering of speech and of music. But it's not. These practices are really done for our minds. So whether it's at the right time, there's sort of no wrong time to do your practices. So if you're a morning person, great. Morning's a good time to do it, but not only because there might be more activity of the dakinis, but also because it's a quiet time for us when we wake up. We haven't gotten hooked by the pulse of the day yet. So it's an easier time to sit and reflect and meditate. But if you're not a morning person, and you're a night person, you might find that you need to do it at night. So at the beginning, like when you do like a retreat and you have 4 sessions of meditation a day or 4 sessions of everything, then those times of day become more important because of pacing it. But in general, it's just it's mainly you have to show up. So whatever time of day it is, it's very helpful that you have a particular spot to do your daily practice in, so that your mind just becomes to associate it with that. So you just know that, oh, okay, so I'm coming to sit in this chair in this room at this time. I'm going to be meditating. And it's amazing how well that works. You know, we don't think about it much. But when you think about the fact, your whole morning routine, you're sort of pushed along by, you walk into the closet, you know what you're going to do in the closet. You walk into the bathroom, you know, you see your toothbrush. I mean, it's all they're all triggers to just keep on track, you know. And this works the same way. So having a place where, you know what your task is there, it keeps you from having to decide every day. It's sort of like, you made the decision, and now you've got a space, and you just follow through. And then the first thing you do is you say prayers of going for refuge and generating bodhicitta. So this again is getting your mind ready. So refuge is all about remembering the qualities of the 3 jewels this time, of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And then bodhicitta is the goal. Bodhicitta is this wish to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. So you're not doing it just for yourself. You're doing it, to help everyone, which includes yourself. Then you invoke the merit field, which is all the teachers from the past. You offer another prayer, the 7-limb prayer, we'll go through that, and a mandala, and you make request of your teachers. This is the setup. How many people do all these things? You get outside of the circle of monks and nuns, not many. Monks and nuns do this, But most of it, if you don't have the time, it's part of our job to do this. If you don't have the time, then, you may start to kind of cut things down a little bit. So you just want to do that wisely, so. But this just gives you an idea of just the basic structure. So, in the shop, I don't know if it looks like this anymore. A daily meditation practice. It's a practice to Shakyamuni Buddha. It includes all the steps of what's considered, So it's a really good starter book if you're one of these people who just is not comfortable without it laid out. I own one. I own 3. For no particular reason except I inherit them from people who died. Literally, that's what I have. I have copies from. Oh, we'll just give that to Tendron. So, anyway. It's also in these prayer books. So if you open to whatever page it is, 165 or something, I don't know where it is. 167. So we're going to follow that practice as sort of our structure for this course. So it has a visualization, so this is how we'll go into the details of these different points. But cleaning the room should be pretty obvious. But it's this idea that you know, you're doing it because you're inviting guests, and those guests are enlightened beings. And then you arrange the representations of body, speech, and mind in a proper order. So a proper order is basically that you have the text, like if you're looking at the altar, the text are on the, you know, the examples would be on the left. There'd be the statue of Shakyamuni Buddha, or a picture of Shakyamuni Buddha would be in the center, and then a stupa on the right. If you have different levels, like we do, you know, technically speaking, the text would be at the top, because they're the true refuge. That's the teachings that we're trying to internalize. Then you have the statue of enlightened body, and then you would have the stupa. Most people don't have 3 different levels to their altar, so it doesn't happen. But it's really nice if your offerings can be lower than who they're being offered to. Okay, so that's why in the Tibetan tradition you usually see stands under the statues, the stupas, and the scriptures, because the offerings shouldn't be on the same level. Partly because, you know, when you spill them, it's not good. And I really like this quote from Thupten Chodron. A bowl of water is not very significant. Water is just representing something. What we are willing to give is ourselves. We are willing to give our time, our energy, all our effort, our hearts into going in this direction of working on ourselves to be able to help others more and more. This is the point. You know, so these rituals are just tools to remind us that we're working to train our minds in a particular direction. And we are showing respect and towards the teachings that are helping us do this. So that's the purpose of prostrations, of making offerings. You know, it's just a way of helping us, you know, keep on track. So it's not, there's nothing holy in the sense of, you know, an altar other than the energy that's created from the people practicing. That's what makes altars sacred. Isn't what's on the altar, it's how we respond to the altar. We put holy objects within statues. Most Tibetan statues are hollow until they're filled with lots of things. And they represent usually mantras and things that have been said by beings who have become enlightened for centuries, you know, and so it's another way of imbuing the space with the energy of enlightened activity, or the activities that get us towards, you know, to become enlightened. And they become holy because of the beings that did practices around them. So like Bodh Gaya, where the stupa, you know, where the Bodhi tree is, where the Buddha became enlightened, and the stupa that is there is supposed to have an incredible energy. And that comes from all the people that have practiced there. They come there, they do pilgrimage, and they make prayers, and Tibetans do 100,000 prostrations around the stupa. And that's what makes it powerful, is the practice that's been done there. So Shakyamuni Buddha did his, you know, 6 years of meditation, you know, all over the place. But then he sat under this tree. So that's how the story goes. And it's really important to remember this, that it really isn't about the objects. We do a lot of things in this tradition to protect the words of the Buddha. We're very careful about where texts go. We don't put them on the floor. We always try to, we don't put things on top of them. We don't try to carry them around with cups of coffee. you know, because at the time of the Buddha, it was really hard to get a text. And none of the teachings were written down for like 300 years. So, you know, and then all the early texts were handwritten. They were incredibly valuable. When the Tibetans went into exile, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama left Tibet over the Himalayas, the monks that traveled with him each carried one of the texts of the Buddha. You know, either one of the, you know, words of the Buddha or commentaries about the words of the Buddha. So they just had one copy of each of the Tibetan canon, you know, the books. So that's all they left with. So that's what they carried, the text, even though they memorized the text. But that's how we have these teachings now, because most of the texts were destroyed by the Chinese soldiers. So, you know, we have, this is still around because they took care of the text. So, so it's like, you know, I try to think of it like if this was a, you know, $1 million lottery ticket, I'd make sure it didn't get lost or damaged. This is better than $1 million lottery ticket because this can get you out of suffering forever. So that's, you know, money can't do that. We think it can do that, but it really can't do that. So we want to, you know, through time as we practice, and I'm sure some of you have experienced this, I know I have, you know, over time, the value of these words, you know, just, I mean, it just gives me the chills, you know, that how, because they have really changed my life. I mean, it's, you know, so it's like, I have a great appreciation for the respect of the text by the Tibetan, you know, monastics who guarded them. And the care that they took